Hello there, my name is Vera Shafiq. I'm Vice President of Digital Strategy with Location 3. And today I'm going to take you into a brave new world of data in a privacy-focused era. We're going to talk a little bit about how privacy has changed the way that we collect data and do marketing. And I'm going to tell you how you can win the fight against the data loss that we're all facing as marketers. So buckle up and get ready to take the leap. It looks scary, doesn't it? Well, don't be scared. We're going to be okay. So before we take the leap, a little bit about Location 3. Location 3 is the premier marketing solution and partner for franchises. And we were founded in 1999 by our chairman, Andrew Beckman. Since then, we've gone through a lot of different kind of iterations. In 2007, though, we earned our first premier partnership with Google and have since been Google Premier Partners. We're also very proud to say that we are one of the top global agencies to be leveraging Google's automation and technology solutions. In 2008, we joined the IFA. And in 2017, we launched lookalike, which is our best-in-class marketing platform for local businesses and for scaling franchises across thousands of locations. So let's get back to data. This is a phrase that was coined several years ago. Data is the new oil. And it is true in many ways that data is very similar to oil in the sense that it holds a very great value for businesses. But similar to crude oil, data needs to be refined before it can be really put to the best use. In this day and age, we have so much data at our fingertips, all kinds of data, especially as franchise marketers. We have marketing data, business data, franchisee data, location data, financial data, the list goes on. And really, it's become very confusing, very overwhelming as to what to really do with the data that we have. And to that point, this is a cartoon that was created by one of my favorite cartoonists, known as the Marketoonist, or Tom Fishburne. You've probably seen his work around LinkedIn. And in this graphic here, or this cartoon, you see the guy at the front presenting to his team, and he's saying, I'll pretend this data I found is reliable, and you pretend to pay any attention to it. So it's almost as if this team is clueless. They really don't know what to do with the data. They're just going through the motions and feeling like they've got to talk about it, but really kind of not knowing what the next steps are. Does this look familiar to you? I hope not, but if it does, stand by and we'll talk a little bit more about how you can be a lot more clearer with what to do with your data. So the first thing I would recommend when it comes to collecting data is to be selective. It's really quality and not quantity, which is the name of the game here. We want to focus in on good data that we're going to be able to use, and really not focus on collecting data for the sake of collecting it. So by focusing on this good quality data, we're really going to force ourselves to use data to move the needle for the business, and also to be more ethical in our use of data in terms of privacy, and really kind of respecting our consumers' consent and wishes in terms of how we use their personal data. So it's going to help us in a lot of ways to be selective. And the reason that we want to be selective and be more privacy compliant is because privacy is becoming a huge consideration. And the next few stats that I'll share with you really exemplify that. So 86% of consumers care about data privacy. 27% of American internet users block ads. Perhaps you block ads. I know a lot of people do. And there's a reason for people wanting to block ads. It's become something that a lot of people do because they are sick and tired of really being followed around the web with irrelevant messaging, ads that don't mean anything to them, ads that are really potentially intrusive on their privacy and their feelings. So if you're one of those people that block ads, you're not alone, and this is becoming a more and more common phenomenon. More than 60% of iOS users have opted out of tracking. And so if you're a Facebook marketer, you're acutely aware of this and realize that Facebook marketing has changed a lot since the iOS update was released by Apple. But I'm going to give you some tips on how to kind of win the battle against this loss of data. 56% of web browsers are Google Chrome. Why is this important? Because Google will phase out third-party cookies from Chrome in 2023. And really, this is going to be the nail in the coffin in terms of being able to use third-party data. Firefox and Safari already phased out third-party cookies several years ago. Now that Chrome's also following suit, it is really going to impact marketing as we know it. So is the death of the third-party cookie really the end of the world for marketers? Well, I would say no. The reason I say no is because I think it's time for us to wean ourselves off these third-party cookies. As marketers, these cookies have really not been that good for us. And the reason being is that they have a short shelf life. Third-party cookies are really hard to keep updated across ad platforms, and even harder to keep updated across devices. So information that you may have on a group of people or individuals may not necessarily be accurate. The kind of reputation that we as marketers have gotten is that we are creepy, that we stalk people around the web with bad ads. Some typical examples could be, being followed around the web with that ad for the red pair of shoes that I already bought several weeks ago, so that's not relevant to me anymore. Or an example would be targeting someone who drives a Tesla and is environmentally conscious with an ad for a gas-guzzling F-150 truck, right? So these kinds of experiences have become more and more prevalent. And this is really because third-party cookies are not that great. So it's time to move on. So what are some of the things that we will no longer be able to do without the third-party cookie? Well, here's a list. Behavioral targeting, retargeting, lookalike targeting, frequency capping, which is, being able to understand how many times the same person has seen the same ad and controlling that. And then view through attribution, which is really kind of understanding who's seen your ad but hasn't necessarily clicked on it. That's more applicable to things like video and display advertising. So here's an example of a form of targeting that overcomes the third-party cookie loss. It's contextual targeting. This is a prime example. This is something that we've had available to us as marketers all the time, but I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of it. So here's an example. I was surfing the web, searching for ways to file my taxes online. I was on the Washington Post and I was reading this article about how to file taxes online. And then suddenly this ad popped up from Tax Act that gave the message, free live assistance on all returns. So this ad is a contextual ad. The advertiser didn't need to know anything about my history, anything about my behavior or my demo. All they needed to know is that I was currently reading an article that was very relevant to their product, and they were able to serve me this ad at a time and a place that I'm probably very receptive to this message. So this is a great example of contextual targeting. Contextual targeting can typically be a lot less expensive than behavioral targeting, and it also gives us as advertisers much more control over where we place our ads. So it's a lot more brand safe. So there are other positives to contextual targeting as well. In-app lead gen. So in-app lead gen is the method of giving a prospect the option to fill in a form on the platform itself. So Facebook, LinkedIn, any other platform where you can serve an ad, rather than having them click on the ad and sending them to your website to fill out a form and become a lead, we are collecting that information in the app itself. So therefore, we're avoiding sending them to our website, where we will lose a lot of the data that is available if they have opted out of tracking. We are collecting that data in the app, right? Those leads are now 100% attributable to the platform, and they are 100% retargetable. So we're saving the data in a place where we're not going to lose it. So this is a really good strategy to kind of overcome that iOS 14 update, which really has affected mostly Facebook, but also other platforms such as LinkedIn. First-party data strategy. This is huge. This is something that if you haven't already jumped onto as a marketer, you could be left high and dry. First-party data is data about your prospects and your customers that you manage, that you control, and that you own. And it's data that you can then put to great use in terms of other marketing tactics. So rather than relying on that third-party data that's not necessarily accurate, you're now focusing in on the data that you own about your customers. Your customers have voluntarily raised their hand to give you this data, and you can now put it to use. It's not necessarily known data or known PII, such as an email address or a phone number. It could be anonymous data that has been collected on your website, tracking, some behaviors that that person's done, time on site, other things that they have exhibited in their behavior that can be taken and stored as first-party data and then stitched together to eventually create a refined, enriched profile of that customer or prospect. So this is something I highly recommend that you start thinking about because it's going to be a strategic imperative as we go forward into 2022 and 2023. Server-side conversion tracking. So this is taking data that we have about our prospects and sending it directly to the ad platform without relying on a pixel and without relying on storing that pixel data on the client side or on the user's browser. So currently, when we use a pixel and we use third-party cookies, it's being done on the client side. This is a technology that we can leverage to take data directly from the server, which would be your website, and feed it directly to a platform such as Facebook. And therefore, we avoid that loss of data that's happening on the browser. And we're also able to control the types of data that we are sending to a platform such as Facebook. So a lot more control, a lot more accuracy. These are the benefits of server-side tracking, as well as the fact that we now, no longer have to rely on pixels. CAPI, C-A-P-I, or Conversions API, is the server-side tracking technology that Facebook gives us to use. We have seen great success with leveraging CAPI for our clients and have seen the gaps in data that we were seeing before being filled in, and have seen a lot better performance with our Facebook campaigns after installing CAPI. So this is a technology that you'll probably need a web dev team or some kind of development team or IT team to help you implement. But once you get this in place, you really are going to reap the rewards and see much better performance. So we highly recommend implementing server-side conversion tracking. Customer Data Platform, or CDP, another three-letter acronym that we marketers love. And you've probably heard of CDP. You may have a CDP for your business already. This is a technology platform which is becoming more and more popular. There are over 100 vendors now that offer a customer data platform, but the space is becoming a lot more consolidated. So, we are seeing a lot of companies buying each other out here, and it's becoming a more and more sophisticated type of platform. Essentially, what customer data platform is the ability to ingest data from disparate data sources across your business. So, for example, point of sales data, CRM, data lakes, offline, data sources. All of the places where you store data about your customers in different areas is being sucked or ingested into one platform and then stitched together to create that single view of the customer that we marketers have been striving for so many years. It's really the holy grail of marketing, to be able to understand who your customers are, get the big picture based on all of the different information that we have about them. And finally, I think this is a platform and technology that is going to allow us to get really, really close to that holy grail. So I'm really excited about it. And it's something that I highly recommend you look into if you haven't already. And it's really just a way to put your first party data to work for your business. Finally, the last piece of technology is machine learning and blended data. Machine learning, again, another buzz phrase. or buzzword that we hear about in the marketing landscape, and really something that can be used to help us fill in the gaps of data loss that we will experience and that we've already started experiencing. So one of the formats of this machine learning and blended data is Google Analytics 4. So Google made an announcement very recently, and right now this is March 2022. So they announced that in July of 2023, the old version, or the current version of Google Analytics, which is Universal Analytics, is going to be deprecated in favor of Google Analytics 4. Google Analytics 4 has been available for a while now, and it's just a different property and a different way of collecting data. What I highly recommend is that you as a company implement a Google Analytics property alongside your current Universal Analytics property. Do not get rid of Analytics just yet, but keep them running side by side. And the reason being is that you want to allow GA4 to start collecting data so that you will have a full year's worth of data come the deprecation of UA, Universal Analytics, and then you'll be able to have year-over-year data within GA4. The beauty of GA4 is that it uses conversion and event-based analytics as opposed to session-based, which is what Universal Analytics does. This gives us a lot better picture of what our customers are doing. And it also uses things like predictive metrics to kind of foresee what our customers are going to do in the future and to detect trends and trajectories so that we can be a lot smarter in the way that we do our marketing. And the other great thing about GA4 is that it integrates really nicely into all of the Google marketing products, such as SA360, DV360, Google Ads, and all the rest of the suite. So GA4, just an example of how machine learning and blended data is going to allow us to become smarter marketers and a lot more privacy compliant and conscious, because GA4 really respects privacy in the way that it collects data. So definitely a great move forward in the world of privacy. Again, you'll probably need your web dev team or your IT team to help you to implement this. But once it's done, you're ready to go and start collecting that data into GA4. All right, well, to recap here, we talked about a lot of things. The main thing that we talked about at the top of the presentation was to be selective about the data that you choose to store. And then find new ways to target audiences. So some of the examples that I gave you were contextual targeting, in-app lead capture, and first-party data to help with retargeting and lookalike modeling. And then finally, leverage technology and automation. The examples that I provided were server-side conversion tracking, customer data platform, and machine learning and blended data. I hope you found this presentation useful, and please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I'd love to chat. Thank you.